Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 12 of the Creative Pause. I am Susan Padron and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi, I'm Stacey of Stacey Fay Designs Jewelry. It's good to be with you all today. We always like to say in this sort of crazy time we're in, we're providing a space of joy and connection and love for you all here on the Creative Pause. So we're very excited today to talk about creativity in particular with Emily of Momraderie, and we'll introduce her in just a moment. But before we do that, we always start our show with just asking how people are doing. The reason for this is to keep it real here. We know that everybody's navigating some just roller coaster of emotions is probably the best way to say it. And so we want to take some time just to talk about that. The way this goes is that Susan and I share, and Emily will share too, about how she's doing. And anybody who's there live, you're welcome to chime in on the chat about how you're doing. If you're listening to the recording, you can say it out loud. You can write it in a journal. Any way that you feel most comfortable sharing how you're doing today. So I will start since I'm already talking. I would say my day today is pretty good. Despite it being rainy, it was kind of gloomy and rainy here, but I made a good deal of time over the weekend. You know, we celebrate Easter, not religiously, but sort of culturally in our house. And we took a lot of time to do Easter activities like, dyeing eggs, which we actually did naturally because we couldn't find any dye. We couldn't get a hold of any dye with the quarantine going on. But we did that naturally, and we hid those for our son and cooked. We made a little floral arrangement, out of stuff that we found in the yard, and just sort of very, very small touches that added up to a space that felt really good despite not being able to see family for the day. And I think that set the course for today being a better day for me and feeling like it kind of rejuvenated me. So that's how I'm doing. How are you doing, Susan?
I'm doing okay. I'm surprised and happy that the sun's out because this morning was just nuts with the rain and the wind. It was crazy. But this weekend I felt like was tough for me. By Friday going into Saturday, I was really feeling burnout on just being in that full on mom housewife role, so much of the time, which I love. I love having both of those aspects in my life for sure. But I think the lack of working, or the lack of just having some time to myself where I could think my own thoughts or not think, I was really just starting to feel anxious about that. So I said to Tony, I think it was Friday night, that I just needed something, I needed time or something. And he was kind enough to just say whatever I needed, then he'd be happy to support it. So Saturday, I just hung out in my office for a while, got a lot of work done on our upcoming website for the show, which I'm already so proud of and can't wait to share it. And just again, had some time to, I know this sounds so silly, but think my own thoughts. I don't know how to describe it any other way than just, not think about everything that has to get done with the house or what I should be doing or the state of the world right now. But just think or not think, which is a luxury that I don't think I was as aware of prior to these last several weeks. But having that having has really helped me just go into this week, be with my son, do things around the house and do things for my business and for the show, and definitely feel good about it. But Emily, my dear, how are you?
Hello, I'm Emily. Thank you so much for having me. Unfortunately, I wish it was over pizza or coffee like we usually do, Susan and I and little Tony. But yeah, it's been an interesting roller coaster. I actually have a similar feeling as Susan. Generally being a homemaker is my main job. So my day-to-day life hasn't necessarily changed. However, I just never really get a break. And I do feel that guilt of, I have to keep them silent so that my husband can get, things done that he needs to do to better our family. And I'm like, this is my, role in helping us to survive through this. But at the same time, I'm tired and I'm, exhausted. I don't get a moment without a scream or I need this, I need that. And it's like, honestly, flashbacks to postpartum, of this I can't escape my own home, I can't escape anything. And this weekend, and I also have a very difficult time vocalizing that, just that's part of my personality, but it was really wonderful this weekend. We were actually chatting with my in-laws, and Renan said, Emily just never gets a break. I get the time to go create a video. My husband's a musician, so he gets to go, create music with his bandmates while virtually, but he gets to change his headspace and get away for a little bit where I'm just sort of in it 24/7. And just hearing him say that and acknowledge that and sort of take that off of my shoulders, was really helpful. And then, we had a little more of a discussion about it. How can we sort of change our daily schedules so that I could get like 15 minutes or 30 minutes? There are the realities of work and life and, pushing forward so that on the other side we can, have a positive outcome. And, the scary financials that maybe are happening now won't be a reality once this is over. And so I'm trying to be sensitive to that, but it meant so much that he said that. And so today was a good day, even though it was rainy. So.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Emily. And I can completely relate. Like when your partner, your spouse, just communicates that they're seeing what you're going through and they're hearing you, I think experiencing that can just create this huge emotional shift like within yourself. So yeah, the fact that Renan said that, I think, is just really wonderful. And especially when you're the type of person that struggles with asking for help or communicating what you need, to have them kind of like take that first step and being like, I'm seeing that you're not getting a break. I'm seeing that, you need more. That's huge. So I'm really glad that you shared that. I feel like a lot of our moms and caretakers that watch the show will like really appreciate that you shared all of that.
Yeah, I just want to echo that, Emily. I've said to Susan that this creative pause has been really good for my marriage and co-parenting with my partner, because I had to ask for the time for this segment, right? Like that I have to sit down, and he cares for our toddler. And in a way, that asking for help and sort of getting to the point where you do that can be groundbreaking for, I think, the dynamic in the household, especially now with all the pressures that we're feeling. So thank you for sharing that.
So the next portion of our show is sharing a quote from our guest. So I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share so we can see what Emily shared with us. So bear with me for a quick sec. And that's not it. Man, is it Mondays or me? Where is it? Oh my goodness. I had it all ready to go. My. My apologies, Miss Emily. That's what I needed. Okay. And it's a Beatles quote too, which I love. Emily and her husband are both musicians, so I was not surprised. I was just, really happy to see that Emily chose her quote to be, one from such an incredible, well-known song. So it's a quote by John Lennon: "All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need." It's really hard to read that without singing it. But I tried. So just know in my head that I was singing it. So Emily, would you mind sharing why you wanted to include this quote for your episode today?
Yeah, so it was interesting when you asked this question. of a quote or lyrics. But just in this moment, this resonated with me because it reminds me of a few things, that love is all I need, you know. I think it's very amazing that even though I said this to you, you know, before this weekend and before what I just shared with you, the love of my partner is helping me, and it is all I need. You know, and just to remind myself that in moments where I do want to pull my hair out, but I'm like, these people love me and I love them too. So love is really all I need, and we can get through this, and you know, the crying will end. And so I just truly believe that love is all you need. You can figure everything else out with, as long as you have that.
Yeah, I love Stacey mentioned in the chat too that she and her husband read a book with that whole song to their son Julian all the time. Just like, hmm, that's so special. Just it's just good stuff all around. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's a good mantra to kind of keep in mind during these times too. Is like, yes, love, love is all we need. Like, really, no matter what's going on around us, no matter what's happening, that has to be our main focus. So I love that you chose that. So now get to formally introduce Miss Emily, who, you know, Emily and I have known each other for just a little bit over a year now, I think, roughly. And we connected over Instagram. Emily has been in some of my photo shoots now. I've had the pleasure of styling her. And she also lives really close to me. So, you know, we get to hang out, our boys get to hang out, and it's just really a wonderful, wonderful friendship that I'm grateful to have. But in a more formal sense, Emily started Momraderie boutique in 2016 in Haddonfield, New Jersey. And her main mission behind starting it was to focus on friendship and positivity through motherhood, which she herself was struggling to find at the time. And now in 2020, Momraderie has evolved into a platform elevating your everyday by showcasing women, tasty plant-based recipes, stylish DIYs, and so much more. And she has her degree in oboe performance and apparel construction. And she's a serial creative, finding inspired ways to approach the everyday. So it's just another way that Emily and I were able to connect too, with both being upper woodwind players, me being a former flutist, or being an oboist, and also not really utilizing those degrees as much as we were in our previous lifetimes. But anyway, I'm happy to have Emily on the show to talk more about Momraderie and really how we can get the most out of this time being moms at home with our little ones. So Emily, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Yeah, you know, I really do feel like a serial creative, and just kind of taking my love of creativity and problem solving. And right now there are some interesting obstacles, just with getting equipment or goods to entertain my boys. So I have found myself getting very crafty, which is part of my nature. But just with everyday things, I loved, Stacey, how you were saying that you naturally dyed the eggs because, you know, you couldn't find egg dye, you know, food coloring. So what do? You know, you figure it out, you make it work. But with having two boys, they always want the same thing. At all times, there's always a fight over the one thing, so we can never just have one. The current popular item is a ukulele, but which we only have one. So in normal circumstances, I would just go to Amazon probably and purchase one and have it sent. But for a whole host of reasons, I decided not to do that and got creative. So I made my boys each their very own ukuleles. So times, you know, you got to do what you got to do. So basically what I did was I got cardboard boxes, and I drew the shape of a ukulele. So this has 4 layers so that it's a little bit thicker. The interesting part is the neck here, it's a little bit flimsy. So I added we happen to have a poster tube lying around. I also have been like hoarding every type of, container that we have. I'm like, I can make something out of this. We can make turtles, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But we've been having so much fun writing songs, having our own band, and just jamming all together. These are obviously rubber bands that I just stapled. So, basically just anytime we need anything before I buy it, or, before all of this, I would just go and buy it. Just taking time to appreciate what I actually have in my home and how could I make that, At first I was thinking that I could make it out of wood, and I'm really glad that I didn't attempt that, because cutting all of these out of cardboard, my hand was killing me. I just hot glued it, so the boys were able to help me there, but some of this has been over their abilities, but we've been having fun doing all these things together too. So I just, want to encourage people to take the time to take a minute and think, how can I do it with something I have? I also, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, asked Roderick, if you could have any dessert, what would it be? What do you miss the most? And he was like, oh, Mom, I just would love a glazed donut. And I was like, okay, we're going to figure it out. We're going to make some glazed donuts. I wish I could demonstrate the recipe with you, but it's dinner time. So the kitchen is occupied currently, but we got creative and made our own. However, I didn't have a donut pan. So I was like, Roderick, we're going to make donut holes, munchkins. We'll make munchkins. But they turned out to be more like cookies. Really delicious though. Unbelievably delicious. We all love them and we just devour them. So, again, taking a moment, changing my mindset and just being like, okay, wait a minute, I can make this. We could figure it out. Just a little bit of creativity, even though maybe it didn't turn out the exact way I had anticipated. We still had fun doing it. And I did put that recipe up on my website. So I can send you that link for you guys to check out later. This is another activity that kept my 2-year-old very occupied today. You could use cotton balls if you don't happen to have pom-poms around, but I just had this little tray, you can see here, with the pom-poms, one in another empty container, and tongs. And he now is a tong master. He just, picks them up, and this occupied him for hours. I'm like, I was like, I'm not sure why I've never thought of doing this before, but he's been really into kitchen equipment lately. So I was thinking, how can we do something with this? Another thing that could be really fun is if you aren't using cotton balls and you're using something color coordinated, you could also challenge them by asking them to sort them by color, or count them also, how many are there. But we're working on colors right now, so he's working on that stuff too. And we also did this really fun art project with, you can see the differences between my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old, but we used the back of plastic forks, and I just put colors in another tin like that, and just kind of let them make their own flower garden. So I'm also loving this moment to instill my creativity on my kids. I think it's really important to, or at least it's been important to me for my sanity, to do projects that I also enjoy, incorporating things that I like. Music, for example, the ukulele, we got to do that together, and we sing and we have dance parties, and it's a great time. So we also have been planting seeds and watering them. So Roderick made this, and these are the raindrops for the flowers, and we have a rainbow and a sunshine. So taking that moment to let them be creative and just run with it too has been a really fun thing to watch. I know that happens at school with my oldest, but it's not something that I always see in the day-to-day. So really appreciating that I get to see the way his mind works. And sometimes I see how it works like mine and I feel badly. And sometimes I'm very thankful, and just that I see myself in him, and we have so much fun together. I also love to sew, and so my youngest has been helping me with that. We sit together and he pulls out the pins as I put the fabric through. So at first I was a little bit wary of the sharp edges, but I think now more than ever, giving our kids um, just trust that they'll be okay and that they'll figure it out, and we're all going through this together, and figuring out projects, problem solving, and having fun. So that is my challenge to you guys, is to look at life in a different way. How can you do it at home? How can you appreciate what you have today? And every day isn't easy to do that. Every moment isn't easy to do that. Sometimes projects go better than other times. I was mentioning earlier to Susan and Stacey as we were chatting before this, my 2-year-old also just recently put bright red nail polish all over our carpet. So, sometimes it doesn't go the way that we want it to go. But just appreciating the things that we can control, the things that we can have fun with, and utilizing our talents. If you like to make pots, you could show your children how to do that, and just go back to your wheelhouse of what truly makes you happy. We do have this moment to find that again. Maybe it's a rebirth of something that you used to do and you would like to do more of, and sharing that with others, just like you guys are sharing so many wonderfully creative people's passions with everyone. And I think it's so inspiring.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, Emily. I like every time I see Emily like posting things that she's like doing on social media with her boys, or like we're talking about it, I just want to applaud you. I want to bow down to you. I'm just like, oh, and the level of creativity that you bring in and that your boys get to experience is so special. And I mean, feel the same way about like Stacey as well. I think I get stuck in my creativity when it comes, especially when it comes to like doing activities with little Tony. Um, but hearing, just the ideas that you were sharing and how like Roderick was really enjoying them and Erwin was too, I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, like, should definitely give it a try. And, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? Like you said, like some things work better than others. Like some activities keep them occupied for hours, and others it's like, okay, let's move on now. um, I've recognized that like the former teacher in me definitely like, just gives me like little tips from time to time, like when I'm trying something with little Tony and I'm trying to get him to do it, or like he's working on like schoolwork or something, and he's just at a point where he's not able to focus anymore, or he's like burnout mentally, then I'm like, okay, and let's change gears, because like this is no longer productive, this is no longer like a happy place for either one of us. Let's move on and do something else. Have you experienced times like that too, where you've had to like take a quick turn in like a different direction with any activities, or has there been like the opposite reaction where they've like really loved something way more than you expected?
Absolutely. I think just like I was saying with the tongs, that's not something that I had anticipated to be so thrilling. To me, I'm like, oh, it's tongs and you're just moving the things over, but it's so exciting to him. He gets the power, the time, the moment to really take control of something and do it himself, which is something that he struggles with the most, because he wants to be 5 but he's 2. So there's a lot of redirecting that goes on around here. But yeah, absolutely, it's a minute to minute game of how to keep you occupied and happy, as and sane as we possibly can. But yeah, so I definitely can identify.
Well, Emily, what you shared got me thinking that I think it's our modern society, we delegate so much, right? Like, especially in our kind of in the typical like middle class family, I would say, like, you know, we delegate, like maybe somebody cares for our children some of the time, or teaches our children some of the time, or you know, there's the people on Pinterest that like somehow are the Pinterest people that like have the beautiful ideas and recipes and whatever. And I think one of the gifts of this time is that it's kind of forced everybody, because we don't have access to those things right now. Aside from some things that are still there, like Pinterest, you know, we have to kind of depend on ourselves more. And I think there's something that's really good about that, in a way of like, it does kind of get you to the point where you come up with more ideas, or you think about, okay, like you said, like I've got to do something here that both makes me happy and my son's happy. Like it's not just about them, you know? Because I think that's the other thinking we can often get in, is that, I don't know, we have to do certain things or reach certain parameters, as like in our parenting or in our schooling or whatever it is. And the reality is like, it's just everyone happy. Like that's really kind of the basic, basic question, you know, and what activities can you do that lead to that happiness? So that was just a thought I was having as you were talking.
Oops, there we go. Yeah, I've started to do more like drawing classes, like through YouTube with little Tony, because there's so many times when he's asking me to draw things for him, or he would, and I'm like, no, I'm not an artist in that way. Like I got nothing. But now that we have the time, we can both learn. And like, while I'm going through the experience with him of learning how to draw, whether it's like um, we've been drawing a lot of Pokemon and Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers lately. So even just going through like the YouTube like how to video, I'm seeing, okay, well that was a little bit tricky for me. Like let me see how he's doing. And sometimes what I'm like having a little bit of difficulty with, he's not, or like vice versa, and seeing where he's comfortable pushing himself and when he does need to ask for help. And we've been talking a lot about how it's okay to try new things, it's okay to mess up and make mistakes. And I think being able to reinforce those kind of life lessons right now is a huge gift that, you know, we are being given and able to then give to our children as a result. So I think just being able to take that step back and bring in things that I like to do, and being able to do that with my son so he can enjoy it as well. I think that's a huge takeaway that I don't think I was really considering prior to you mentioning it, Emily. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and actually, I was thinking too, with you were mentioning trying new things. Our oldest Roderick, he's quite particular, and you know, this is something that I've also struggled with, just this sort of perfectionism mentality throughout my life, and just, you know, oh well, I could never do that, I can't do that, you know, and so this has given me the time to do it together, you know, oh well, let's do it together, it's not so scary when we do it together. And then he sees he can do it. He learned to ride a bike, I think it was maybe last year or 2 years ago, but he won't leave our driveway. And we kind of, our street has a bit of a hill, and he's like, no, 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 I can't go up the hill. So now we've started, let's walk the bike up to the top of the hill. We don't have to ride it, but let's walk it together. But just, you know, appreciating that we have that time to, you know, to be together and to be active. And, you know, I've been whipping out my rollerblades. All sorts of past hobbies have been coming out of the woodwork. That was thanks to a garage reorganization that my husband did. He found the rollerblades. So, you know, again, just like finding the me in the time that I actually don't have any time to myself, but, you know, just saying, okay, this is cool, I'm doing something that I want to do, you know, and then we'll do Legos, and not that I don't like Legos, but you know, do things that they like to do specifically that might not be my favorite thing, but just incorporating into my day something that's important to me too, you know, and just feeling like it's okay to be, you know, it's okay to have feelings, and not to just hold the whole family on my back and just be like, no, I must muster through this, and it, I'm going to make us all happy. That's just not reality. Like, that's not real. There are times when I'm really, really sad. The first week I would just burst into tears. Any given moment I would see a tree outside of our house and I would just be like, I love that tree. I don't want to go away from that tree. I was afraid of all sorts of, there was just so many questions, so many unknowns. I love, that our children can be here or there, and worrying about my parents, just any moment. And so to be able to give some of that back and just be like, this is okay for me. I can give to you, but I also need to give to myself. And I think that's been a life lesson for me to really take further, because that's something I always struggled with, but this has sort of forced me into it. So thank you for letting me share all that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being so honest and open. When you were sharing just now, I remembered what you were saying earlier at the beginning of the episode about how it reminded you of like being postpartum. And that was something that I had connected with as well, like early on in this, because Tony was still working and because his job is technically like an essential business. And so yeah, it was that like not being able to leave your house and, just feeling just stuck and scared and overwhelmed and, everything, and just being shut off from everything around you. Um, so yeah, but it's an interesting place to be at this point, and be able to like take those moments to, not let that be the main focus, not let that just completely be the overwhelm, and figure out how to handle all of it and how to just take those steps back and take a different approach to how we're all experiencing life right now, and experiencing the time with our families and our children, and just try to make the best of it and know it's temporary.
Yeah, and something else you said, Emily, reminded me. I think I've said this on a previous episode. If not, Susan certainly heard me say it ad nauseum, that some of the idea for this show, and she and I collaborating together, is because we had to transform that grief. That first week was just like the rabbit hole of grief, and we had to transform it into something. And quite honestly, and Susan knows this, my husband knows this for sure, I never would have done this under normal circumstances. I would have said, oh, it has to be absolutely perfect before you launch it in the world, or it's not needed, or maybe nobody cares, and it didn't matter. Like literally nothing mattered except that I had to transform the grief and work with somebody to do that, to make it into something hopeful. And so I think that that's like, again, a gift of this time, right? It's like our backs are up against the wall, and that's really uncomfortable and really grief filled. But what do we do to then, lean into it? As people have said, like, how do we lean into this difficult space and make something of it? Whether that's ukuleles or whatever that is. Like, it's a time to lean in, I think.
Yeah, Emily, like, can you send me a picture of like you and the boys with the ukuleles, because Honey Bunny is just gonna like demand that we make one immediately, and he's gonna love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been having so much fun, and I'll send that right away.
Yeah. So I had a question too about the ukulele. Like I saw it had this like beautiful pattern on it. Did you paint that, or was that like on the cardboard that you have? Like it blew my mind how pretty it was.
So this does happen to be the cardboard that we had. It was from a Great Jones pot, like cooking utensil pot. But I did have Roderick draw on it. So if you had just plain, if you just had brown, you could let them decorate it however they wanted. But he put some flowers on it. But yeah, I know it is kind of especially pretty. The inside of this box was really nice. So I was like, let's put that on the outside.
Yeah, I was like blown away when you held it up. It's like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. I mean, now Honey Bunny's expectations are going to be high, but it's okay. Be like, you can play with that when we get to go to Roderick and Winnie's house. It's fine. Hopefully it'll last, but we'll try to make our own too. Maybe we can have like a FaceTime band jam or something.
That would be amazing. FaceTime. I mean, the boys too have just really been loving FaceTime, which has been nice too.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been able to connect with my parents a lot more than we had prior to this. And my dad has been doing something really special for um, my son and my nephews, where every day he is recording a song that he sings to them and plays on his guitar. And then he also records like a short story that he tells for them. And it's something that, I know that my son looks forward to every day. He's like, oh, we're going to get a pop-up story tonight. Like, and I think it's really helping my dad too, because my dad, he likes being home and he likes being home with my mom, but he definitely suffers from stress and anxiety, like I think a lot of us do. So I was really happy to see that he was doing the kind of things for his grandchildren, to just help himself also, and helping to just, again, like that daily creativity and that ability to like bring joy to somebody else's day while also doing something that you like to do. And yeah, so that's been really nice too. So if we have any grandparents or other people who are separated from their loved ones, which I know I'm sure we have tons of right now, or listening or watching the episode, just trying to find ways where you connect and be creative, even in separate ways, I think is really, really big. But yeah, any final thoughts that you want to share with us, Emily or Stacey?
I just wish everyone peace and love. I truly I love connecting with people that I've never met. I mean, Stacey, this is the first time we've gotten to meet, and it's special to be able to, I think throughout my life, sometimes I've been afraid to be vulnerable. Everything has to be perfect, like you were saying, but we're all vulnerable. So it's a nice, refreshing time to just, even though we have never personally met or spent, extended amounts of time together, I feel a connection. And it's so special, and everything that you guys are creating is really, really helpful for so many. So thank you for spreading the love, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being part of it. It's great to connect.
Yeah, Emily, thank you so much for being on today with us. Thank you for everything that you shared, all those like super fun activities and your emotional vulnerability as well. Like, we are so grateful to have you here today. We always like to conclude our episode with a Mary Oliver quote, which is, well, Stacey shared actually. Well, you unmuted. I was like, oh no, I'm stealing her quote.
Yeah, so it's Mary Oliver's quote, but
yeah.
Yeah, Mary Oliver has a quote from one of her poems, which says, "What will you do with your one wild and precious life?" So I think that's really our call to action at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you again, Emily, for being on, and we will be live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time every weekday, and you can always catch the recording on YouTube and soon on our website. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you
So much.
Bye.